Hi there. Welcome to another episode of Pod Hour. I just wanted to put this at the beginning of the episode. What you're about to hear is old. What you're about to hear is before the gameplay revealed trailer of Marvel Spider-Man 2. There are some good points made in this that I did not feel like reiterating for one reason or another. So think of this episode as like a before and after all in one. I'm going to hit you with the before trailer part first. That's what you're about to listen to. And then I'm going to come back. This current day, me having watched the gameplay reveal trailer, will come back in and give some thoughts post game reveal trailer. There's a lot of good stuff in this first half that I really didn't want to throw away. So I thought about how best to make this work, and somebody very kind enough to suggest doing a before and after type deal. So that's exactly what we're doing. So let's get into it. Again, just so we're clear, what you're about to listen to is before the gameplay reveal trailer for Marvel Spider-Man 2. I will then come back and give some thoughts after the gameplay reveal trailer. I can't even English. I'm really excited about this episode. So please enjoy this first part, and I will see you in a little while. Hello. Welcome to another episode of Pod Hour. This is an episode of Odd's Thoughts. Today, we are going to talk about the upcoming Sony video game, Marvel's Spider-Man 2. I believe that's what its actual title is. I'm not 100% sure. They might change it, or maybe they won't. I don't know. Regardless, really want to talk about this game. I loved the first Marvel Spider-Man. I thought it was a fantastic game through and through. I'm clearly, definitely not the only person who thinks that. A lot of people thought that game was handled really well, unless you're one of those people who think it was garbage because they got rid of a puddle during one fight scene. That game was fantastic. Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales was also really fun. I've talked about that a little bit before, but not super duper in length. I believe I spoke on that in the Game of the Year Every Year video over on my YouTube channel, which you might be watching right now. You're probably listening to this as a podcast, as a Pod Hour episode. Thank you for tuning in again before I forget my manners. Regardless, I want to talk about Marvel Spider-Man 2 because I am so ridiculously excited for it. Specifically because Venom. Venom is my favorite Marvel character, right up there with Deadpool and Spider-Man himself. I am so excited. One of my favorite movies is Spider-Man 3. I'm tripping over my own words because of how truly, genuinely excited I am for Venom to get another chance at getting something good. Like Venom and Venom Let There Be Carnage's movies, I thought did the character really well. And this game is another chance to have Venom shine really bright. So, with that being said, let's get into why I want to talk about this. I feel like there's a lot of potential for Venom to be handled super well, and I had a couple ideas on how they could do it. Obviously, the game is already written and basically done. It's coming out later this year or early next year. I'm not entirely sure. But what I hope happens regarding Venom is what we will be discussing right now. I'm going to briefly spoil what happened at the beginning or at the end of Marvel Spider-Man 1. It turns out that Harry Osborn, right, Peter's best friend, never went to Europe. He's been stuck in some sort of state in a green tube. It's theorized that the Venom symbiote is what's keeping him alive. You can kind of see it in that little cutscene where he's in that green box of green juice. I think it's fair to say that Harry's going to be Venom. I think it would be really solid. Venom does not need to be Eddie Brock or Matt Gargan or any of those other characters. Venom is just the symbiote itself, and whoever it ends up bonding with, I think, can add a lot to the character. Venom being Harry, or Harry being Venom, I think adds a lot to Peter's aspect of the story, because, again, we're dealing with two Spider-Men. It's important to acknowledge that this isn't just about Peter anymore. It's about Peter and Miles and their relationship moving forward as a Spider-Folk. So I think Harry being Venom would give a lot more to Peter as the aspect, as the true protagonist, despite them both being the protagonist, Peter and Miles. And what that gets me really excited for is the possibility of either or both of them getting a symbiote suit, getting the black suit after the first encounter with Venom, or something along those lines. I think it could go one of three ways. I think they could both get it, but I don't think that's a solid idea. I don't think they should both have their first run-in with Venom. Assumed first run-in with Venom, I don't know. Marvel Spider-Man follows a more seasoned Peter. That was their whole thing. He's like mid to late 20s. He's been Spider-Man for a while. It's not explicitly said whether or not Venom has happened before, like he's encountered the symbiote or anything along those lines. So it's really up in the air as to Peter's knowledge on this, and Miles being completely new to being Spider-Man as well. Even after his journey in Miles Morales, the game, there's a lot of directions it could go. So if they both end up getting a black suit, I think that would be the weakest. It would be the most fun from a gameplay perspective because, you know, enhanced power, enhanced emotions, mostly anger and things like that, like what we typically see whenever someone is involved with the symbiote suit. But I don't really know where it would go from a story aspect if they're both just being the bad guy or both turning into the bad guy. I think it would be much more fun if one or the other gets a black suit. Now, between the two of them, I think if this is the first time this version of Peter Parker and Spider-Man is seeing Venom, I think Miles should get the black suit because... For a few reasons. This is my main theory about Miles should be the one getting the black suit. Miles already has named his attacks Venom Strikes, and Venom this and Venom that. So, getting its name from Miles makes way more sense story-wise. Like, yeah, I use my Venom Strike, I name this thing Venom, so on and so forth. It also lends more credibility to Peter being Spider-Man and all the weight that bears. Not to delegitimize Miles being a Spider-Man, but it's Peter Parker is still currently Spider-Man. So we always see Peter Parker's struggles with being Spider-Man. And now this new kid that Peter is teaching to be Spider-Man being either super disrespectful or being angrier or teaming up with Venom to some point if he has this black suit, like, what does that entail from a Peter perspective? Him having to save Miles from the clutches of this evil thing that is draining his life force and things like that. There's a lot that they could do with Miles getting the black suit. Now, if they wanted to have Peter get the black suit instead, and Peter become darker and more evil as a character, that could also be fun because then it leans more towards Miles' story. Miles' story has been really fleshed out with Spider-Man Miles Morales. I've mentioned it several times. It's a solid game. You can always go further because there is this theme of responsibility is consistent throughout Spider-Man. People will say that constantly, and it's true. It's so true. The weight of being Spider-Man is not a light weight. Is this a teachable moment for Miles to understand that weight once his mentor stops being super helpful and starts leaning more towards a dark side? How does Miles react to that? How does Miles grow up with that when he doesn't have Peter to grow him into a more seasoned Spider-Man? Because again, Miles is Spider-Man within his own right. There's no doubt that both of them are equally Spider-Man. It's a question of where do they go from here because we're expanding this story that they're in with a sequel. So introducing Venom into that is a really good idea for fleshing out both of those characters. Personally, I think Miles should get the suit. I think it would be really cool to see a symbiote version of Miles' suit. I'm not sure if we've ever seen an official version of that. I'm sure we have at some point. But I really think fleshing out Peter's story and the weight of great power with great responsibility really lends itself a lot to Peter being Spider-Man. Again, I keep going back and forth on who I think should get it between the two of them. Part of me hopes that it's one of those things where the game lets you choose at some point. Like, you send one of them to go fight Venom, you send the other to go fight Kraven. Kraven's also confirmed a big antagonist. I don't know who the main antagonist yet. It might be like a Sinister Six situation. Like in the first game where Doc Ock was like the big bad, but the Sinister Six was still like involved. I'm going to drink water here really quick. I think there's a lot of different directions they could go, and I think they're all good. What I hope doesn't happen, I hope we don't get some version of a black suit. I hope that we I'm worried that we don't get a black suit in this game, a Spider-Man with a black suit in this game. I think there would be a huge missed opportunity to see again, I've said it before, I'm repeating myself at this point, the weight of being Spider-Man with the people you love most and how it affects them. Seeing either your mentor or your student dive into that darkness that is so easy to dive into as a person with this level of strength. Playing into that and how that affects gameplay, how that affects the story and the characters you interact with, how it affects your relationship with Harry. Like if the suit just straight up leaves Harry and leaves him for dead. If, again, making a lot of assumptions here that Venom is Harry and Harry is Venom and things like that. Norman Osborn being involved in things like that. I think there's a lot of directions they could go. So to recap really quick, I think Miles should get a black suit. I think Peter should struggle with Miles. I think the final fight for this game is going to be Peter versus Miles. And I think it's going to be because one of them has a black suit. I would love to see that. I think that would be such a solid... I know that this production company has the ability to produce something fantastic with just that idea of Peter Parker versus Spider-Man. Peter Parker versus Miles Morales. Spider-Man versus Spider-Man. One losing their path of being good and trying to get set by the other one. It could also be a thing where it's a subtle... They don't realize that the suit's being passed between them. Again, it really all hinges on one of them trying to be evil because they're being infected by a symbiote suit. And how that relates to their journey. I do think one of them is going to die. Historically, we see Peter die and Miles become the only Spider-Man. I hope that's not the case. But again, think about the character development if Spider-Man has to kill Spider-Man. You know? Like, I trust this production. I trust these game devs to get that right if that's the path they want to go down. I hope it is not, because they are both such solid characters. You never want to see the hero go down, even if they're leaning towards the bad side. But I'm so excited for what this game could bring, just from a Venom perspective, that I don't really care about Kraven or any other villains that could show up. I want to see the relationship between Peter and Miles strained. I want to see them both feel the weight of being Spider-Man for one reason or another, and how they overcome that. If I could go back in time and affect this script to be anything, I would have it include that. And those are my hopes and prayers for Marvel's Spider-Man 2. We will be right back with after a word from our sponsor. So, fun fact, I actually don't have a sponsor for this episode. So, I will be the sponsor for this episode. This episode of Pod Hour is brought to you by OddHour. The host is OddHour, and he's bringing you this episode. Thank you, OddHour, for sponsoring Pod Hour by OddHour. Thank you for listening. If you have any theories on what you think Marvel Spider-Man 2 is going to be like, what story things you hope to see, what characters you hope to see, hit me up. Lay it on me, please, by all means. I am very reachable on pretty much everything. If you go to my Linktree link, which is linktr.ee/oddhour, you're going to find all my stuff. And let's talk about it. To further expand on this idea of them having a black suit and not realizing it, maybe it's not more of a cosmetic change, but maybe it's more of a mental change, where we start seeing like Peter or Miles hitting a little bit harder. Like maybe we feel it in gameplay too, where they're either swinging a little bit faster and people are getting knocked out a little bit quicker and things like that. Like maybe more violent Venom strike moves from Miles and things like that. And from a story perspective, honestly, maybe they kill somebody. Maybe they dive so deep into that darkness in the symbiote suit that they're just like, yeah, I did it. And between the two of them, which would be harder to see them kill somebody, right? Like, having Spider-Man kill somebody is such a huge deal, but if you really want to drive the point home as to how far gone this character is, that's not a terrible idea. And I'm not talking like somebody significant. I'm talking like a cutscene where Miles and Peter teams up and Miles just punches somebody so hard they like explode. Not literally, but basically. I think there's a lot of potential with this game as a diehard Venom fan that I hope they run with. But obviously I can't control it. We can just hope, for me personally, will hope and pray that I get what I want. I'm obviously not going to be disappointed if there is no black suit or anything of what I mentioned, but I feel like narratively it would make sense for these characters to have some sort of struggle. Because seeing them work together so well, there needs to be some sort of strain on that to really drive home how sad it is at the end of the day to be Spider-Man. Because it is. It very consistently is. We're talking about a character who sold his marriage to the devil to save his aunt's life. We're talking about a character who at the end of his own game buried his aunt. He had to choose between saving his aunt or saving the city. And everybody knew that he had to save the city because he's Spider-Man. Spider-Man with a black suit saves Aunt May. Aunt May is still alive. Okay? I want that. I want there to be a much more intense internal debate about actions and whether it is okay to be even a little selfish as a superhero. That's the thing about being a superhero, right? That's the thing about Spider-Man. Like, someone in chat is saying, I would be a terrible superhero. I just steal a bunch of stuff because who's going to stop me? Let's be honest. Like, be for real. That's a good point. It's a good point. It is so tiring to constantly do the right thing when you know it's what should be done. And, like, the negative repercussions from that. And like, Spider-Man, maybe Peter Parker exemplifies that more than Miles does. But, like, Spider-Man as a character does that well. Of, like, I should be doing the right thing because people will get hurt if I don't. And losing someone close to me is a result of that. So, having a character who constantly does the right thing not do the right thing because of an external, like, factor is what makes me so excited for Marvel Spider-Man 2. Like, just straight up. It is so difficult just in everyday life to constantly do the right thing. To always do the right thing. We know it's the right thing to do, so we do it. But we all fully acknowledge how much easier it would be to not be a good person. That's why there are so many people who aren't good people. Like, objectively speaking, people choose to be bad people because it's easier than being a good person. Good people go out of their way to do things. Bad people do not. I liken it to that shopping cart question of, like, no one is punishing you for not returning a shopping cart to a shopping cart area. There's no punishment for not doing it. But it is the right thing to do. It's what you should do. And so many people just don't do it. And they should. It is such a simple task that people actively choose not to do. Now scale that. Scale just a simple thing like that all the way up to being a superhero where the fate of the city is in your hand and your dying aunt is right in front of you. And Peter Parker says, I know what I have to do and this is going to hurt like hell. And he still does it. A character like that getting pushed to a point where they don't make that choice anymore is incredible. And something we can possibly see in this game. And now flip that for a second to Peter trying to instill that into Miles and failing. Peter, with all this weight of being Spider-Man, trying to help another Spider-Man, fails and sees Miles go down this dark path that is so much easier. How do you convince somebody with the strength of a god to constantly do the right thing? That's what this game should be. And a very easy way to go about that is with a black suit. Is with Miles getting a black suit. Boom. Okay, well, here we are. Present day, right? We have seen the gameplay reveal trailer. We know that Peter's getting the black suit. Miles is really not... Miles immediately noticed that something was wrong with Peter. There's a lot to go off of here, but let's get into it. What you just listened to, it doesn't look like Miles is going to get the black suit at first. I did have the idea that maybe Miles will get it later. We'll see. Current theory that I have is that something's going to happen between the black suit, the symbiote, and Peter, and the symbiote's going to realize Miles is stronger. That might be a fun little boss fight. That might be a whole other thing where Miles gets the suit and they kind of role reverse a little bit there. There's a lot. So, first of all, we know that Harry is dying. We knew that already because the gameplay trailer reveals that they're trying to capture Kurt Connors, who is currently the Lizard, because Connors is the only one that could save Harry's life. We didn't see anything about Venom other than the symbiote suit, right? That Peter just... It looks like the scene is Peter first getting the symbiote suit, and he's much more violent. As I said, like, a lot less carefulness. Like, in that trailer, he throws down the person that whose life he just saved. And he's much more confident, much more angry. There's a lot there. So let's look at Peter getting the suit over Miles. Let's pretend for now that only Peter gets the black suit. I think Peter's going to die. Straight up. I think the final fight is going to be Miles versus Peter in the black suit. And I think Miles is going to win because the good always prevails over evil. I think Peter's going to go fully into the dark side. And I don't think he can come back. I think Peter's going to die. I think Miles is going to be the only Spider-Man. And again, playing into that weight of what it means to be Spider-Man. He knows he has to stop Peter at any means necessary. So he will. He does that. I think. I said in the first half, I said that Miles would be better with the black suit. I'm much more excited by Peter having the black suit. I hope it lends more to the narrative of Peter being Spider-Man, but I do think that Peter's going to die. It would be great from a narrative point of view for Peter to overcome the black suit and still remain teaming up with Miles. But these games don't often have a happy ending, right? Spider-Man Miles Morales saw Finn die. Sorry for the spoiler. The first one saw Doc Ock fully losing his mind, and that heartbreaking scene with Peter just being like, you were everything I wanted to be, and how he idolized this person who became his greatest villain. They do such a good job with these games, and I know they're going to knock it out of the park with this one. I'm so excited, and I'm so scared of what is to come with this game. I'm just so excited. Movement also expanded as well. I don't care about the gameplay. Just so we're clear, right now I'm not talking about the gameplay. The gameplay is going to be fantastic. That is a given. There's no way that they messed this up when they already knocked it out of the park twice. Okay? We're talking pure narrative here. Miles still has Genki as the guy in the chair. That's great. That shouldn't change. There's no problem with that. I would like to see how Miles and Peter, like how their relationship has blossomed to this point. Where Peter, well, first of all, Peter's angry, I assume, because his best friend is dying, right? Harry's dying. Something happens with the suit, clearly, otherwise Peter wouldn't have the black suit to begin with. What happened with Harry, right? I thought Harry was going to be Venom. Current theory for me is that Peter and Miles fight Venom. Venom turns out to be Harry, and in that process is when Peter gets the symbiote on him. That's my current theory. we know for a fact now, the devs, whoever it is, has confirmed that Eddie Brock is not Venom. Eddie Brock either doesn't exist in this universe or he's not here yet. It would be a fun little post-credit scene if like a piece of the symbiote got onto Eddie Brock and that was a new Venom. That would be kind of fun, but I think we're stuck with this Harry is Venom. That's the only thing that really makes sense. It would be a fun twist if Norman Osborn became Venom, became Harry. If Norman Osborn became Venom, that would be a fun little twist, but I really think it's going to be Harry. Based on that, the previously mentioned end credit scene from Spider-Man 1, and even Miles Morales Spider-Man with the symbiote being in Harry's tank. That gameplay reveal trailer really, really gave me a lot to be excited for. I love that Peter is in the black suit. After being so adamant that I think it would be better for Miles, which I will stand on the ground and say that, like, I will defend that hill and say that it would have been fun to see how Peter deals with the person he's teaching to be Spider-Man, or like helping, because again, I'm not trying to discredit Miles. I feel like when I say this, I discredit Miles. I am not trying to discredit Miles Morales as Spider-Man. He is Spider-Man. That being said, he still does look up to Peter, right? You can tell he's trying to help. They're trying to be partners. Peter with the black suit seems to be much more of like a sidekick relationship that Peter is trying to put on Miles, when that's just not the case. Miles can handle himself. So from the perspective of Peter still being the mentor of like, yeah, this is just how Spider-Man is, and helping Miles come into his own even more as Spider-Man by just giving practical advice and practice and whatnot, right? Like just still being the teacher, the mentor student with a much more balanced relationship, because Peter has the time, Peter has the years of Spider-Man. And if Miles got the suit and stopped listening to Peter, that would have been fun. That would have been fun to see. It would have been fun to see how that played out. But because Peter has the suit, it gives much more responsibility to Miles, because Miles now has to deal with saving the city, doing the right thing, and saving probably his best friend at this point. I like, forget about teacher, student, partner, sidekick, whatever. That's his best friend. That's the only person who understands the burden of what it is to be Spider-Man. That's the bond that they share. And now his mentor is just becoming a bad guy, going down a much darker path. It's exciting to think about what Miles is going to do in that situation. And again, coming full circle, I think Miles is going to have to kill Peter. I think Peter is going to die. I don't want that. Just so we're clear, I do not want Peter to die. I love Peter Parker as Spider-Man. I love Miles as Spider-Man. I love that there can be two spider people, like running around Manhattan and saving the city. Also, they're in Brooklyn now too. Like the map, I'm going to gameplay really quick. The map expanding to more than just Manhattan. It's fantastic. I love that the game is getting bigger. I'm really trying to stick to story stuff here. I am more excited for this game now because I was wrong. Because Peter's getting the black suit. Assuming that Peter's never dealt with something like this before. A seasoned Spider-Man, not having dealt with Venom, not having dealt with going down a darker path, becoming the bad guy. The final fight for this game is going to be one of two things. It's either going to be Peter versus Miles. Miles is going to have to win because Peter's becoming a bad guy. Or, at some point during that fight, the symbiote goes back to Venom, and it's like a ridiculously strong version of Venom that both Peter and Miles have to take down together. I like the second option, but I think the first option is going to happen. I just realized Milton's back there. If you're listening to this and you're not watching this in video form, my dog has been in the room the whole time, and I didn't notice because he blends in so well. So there's your after for Marvel Spider-Man 2. Again, the first half of what I recorded has a great outro. I'm going to lend it back to my former self. But I am so stupidly excited for this game. I am so excited to play it and talk about it with all you beautiful people. So please, let's talk about it when it comes out. You can reach me. You can find me. I am available. Hit me up. I am so excited for this game. I'm so excited for this game. I went back and I finished 100%ing Marvel Spider-Man 1 and Miles Morales. I was on the brink of doing it, and the gameplay reveal trailer made me go back and do it because I couldn't contain how excited I was. And with that, I'll pass it to my former self for a better outro. This game has a lot of potential, and I am so excited to play it whenever it comes out. And with that being said, that is where I will leave it. I hope you have a good day, a good evening, whatever time of day you're watching this or listening to this. And I hope you tune in to future episodes. I hope you go back and listen to old episodes and tell me what you want to hear more of. Thanks again for tuning in to Odd's Thoughts. I hope I hear you and see you soon. Hear you soon? That's a weird ending. I'm going to leave it at that. Goodbye.